The New York Islanders have a must-win situation tonight in Game 3. We'll talk about the change in net, possible lineup changes, and why the Islanders struggle so much against the Hurricanes. All that and more on today's Locked On Islanders podcast.
Your Locked On Islanders, your daily podcast on the New York Islanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to the Thursday edition of the Locked On Islanders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you can get new episodes as soon as they drop. And don't forget, today's episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. I admit it, I have a competitive side, and it's a big fan of Monopoly Go, the mobile hit twist on classic Monopoly. So join your friends and download Monopoly Go now, free on the App Store or Google Play. We've got a lot to discuss on today's show, but first, if there's something Islanders related on your mind, if you have a question, a comment, maybe a topic you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, you can email us at lockedonislanders@gmail.com. And if you leave your first name and where you're from, we're happy to mention you on the show when we discuss whatever's on your mind. You can also follow the show on X at Locked On Isles, and you can follow me, Gil Martin, on X at Ice Wars, NYR vs NYI. We'll keep you up to date on all things Islanders all season long and throughout the playoffs and the offseason all the time. So join me I'm also live tweeting during every Islanders home and road game. So join me for some instant insight and analysis. And it's great to talk Islanders hockey with you, game time or anytime. Patrick Roy on Wednesday, making it official. The New York Islanders are going back to Ilya Sorokin between the pipes for Game 3. That is tonight. A must-win game, obviously, for the New York Islanders. There is just, no way around that. Now, it's a 7:30 Eastern time start at UBS Arena, and you can catch every minute of this game with the Islanders' hometown broadcast on SiriusXM. Just go to the SXM app and do a search for Islanders. And look, Patrick Roy has his reasons for making the change. And I can't say, quite honestly, that I blame him. And we talked a little bit, everydayers know, yesterday about this. And yet, at the same time, Patrick Roy did a little explaining after practice on Wednesday. So here's what Roy had to say. We knew we would have to use both goalies. They're both sharp. Varley had a lot of shots in the last game, so it would be good to have someone fresh for tomorrow. Ilya understood what was going on because Varley was playing so well. I just feel like he's coming in the perfect scenario. We're down 2-0 in the series. Now he's going in, and all he could do is go and enjoy the ride. Now, another thing Roy added, and this has been important, he said that Ilya Sorokin has been controlling his rebounds better. If he sees a lot of shots, I think he's responding really well to that. And that's important. Let's face facts. There have been several issues in Ilya Sorokin's game that has been less consistent this year than it was last year. Rebound control, definitely one of them. That is unquestioned. Another one is being beaten low glove side, sort of underneath his armpit in that spot. And then perhaps, how far out he comes from his net to play the angles. Those are the things that when Ilya Sorokin is on, they're not an issue. When he's struggling, they do tend to be. And, last year in the 6-game series against Carolina, we had Ilya Sorokin in goal for all 6. And he played good, but not great. Although the numbers look solid, a 2.60 goals against, a 9.29 save percentage. Now, look, Varlamov, down the stretch of the season, 8-1-1, a 209 goals against, a 930 save percentage, and a shutout. Although, while Sorokin did not have as good a season as he did a year ago, 25, 19, and 12, which is really 25 and 31, a 909 save percentage, a 3.01 goals against. Down the stretch, he went 3-0-1 in his final 4 games, and hopefully, he is ready to go. And I think overall, if you look at it from this standpoint, and everydayers, we did talk about this on yesterday's show, but you're looking for a spark here. You were going to ride Varlamov because he was the hot hand, and Varley has been solid so far in the playoffs. I don't blame Semyon Varlamov at all for either of the losses that the Islanders have had in their first 2 games this playoff year. But you were really playing your backup because he was the hot hand. And now, with no more margin for error, you want to go back to your number one guy and see what he's got. So we'll see whether or not Sorokin is there and going to be able to bring his A game. They need his A game, or at least an A minus kind of a game, because as we have seen in the first 2 games of this series, the Carolina Hurricanes do not allow for a big margin for error. Realistically, the Islanders have 4 goals scored in 2 games and just don't have the shots on goal, the pressure. So much time has actually been spent in the Islanders' zone over the course of the first 2 games, which means that Semyon Varlamov is probably a little tired after facing all those shots and all of that intensity, even when he wasn't actually facing shots. He was facing a lot of pressure. And, that is a big, big issue for the New York Islanders. And if you look at the numbers, just how one-sided it was, the shot attempts were just unbelievable and unbelievably one-sided in favor of the Carolina Hurricanes. And that is, again, part of the problem. Varlamov faced 63 shots in 2 games, 38 of them in the last game, but the shot attempts were even more one-sided. Shot attempts in game 1, 74 for Carolina, 57 for the Islanders. In game 2, shot attempts for Carolina, 110, 28 for the New York Islanders. I'm sorry, when it's 3.5 roughly to 1, you need your goalie to be almost perfect to have a chance to win. And that's not what you got from the Islanders. So Sorokin hopefully gives them a spark. Hopefully, there's 2 ways you can look at it. The Islanders could be more confident playing in front of their number one goalie, the guy who, essentially has been their best goalie for the last 2 years. Or if they are a little more concerned about Sorokin and say, oh, he's been a little shaky this year, we're concerned about the rebound control, the angles, the, low glove side shots, etc. Maybe that means the Islanders pay a little more attention to detail in their own zone and at getting the puck out of their own zone and just doing things a little bit better in order to avoid, making Ilya Sorokin face all those shots. So, couple of ways to look at it, but hopefully for the New York Islanders, they are successful at cleaning things up, and we'll see what happens tonight during that game. Should be a good one. Islanders, again, must win. Can't go down 3-0 in this series. We have got a lot more to discuss on today's show. We will talk about some lineup changes that the Islanders made in practice and whether or not they will happen in the game, including one that is a little bit of a surprise. we'll have that. Plus, for our Islanders' birthday of the day, a veteran defensive forward who finished his career with the New York Islanders in 1993-94. Also played for the Devils, Oilers, Canadiens, and Sharks. Let's see if you can guess who that is. We've got all that and more coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. We've all been there, either as a player or a fan. It's halftime and the scoreboard is not looking good. You're feeling low, not sure you or your team can pull out a win, and that's when you dig deep. Lift up your head and say to yourself, time to get back in the game, pull off some bank heists, and take as much of my friends' money as I possibly can. That's right. The smash hit mobile game Monopoly Go lets you compete with your friends to get the most riches and the biggest empire. It's the Monopoly you love, but on your phone anytime, with tons of new twists, including leaderboards to compare your progress to your buddies. There's so much to do. You could play on countless dynamic Monopoly boards, make your friends bankrupt by smashing their landmarks with a wrecking ball, and charge other players rent for your iconic properties. You can even work with your friends to crack open community chests and tournaments to get extra rewards and climb that leaderboard. So get back out there, put on your game face, and download Monopoly Go, now free on the App Store or in Google Play. Check it out, Monopoly Go, available on the App Store and in Google Play. Are you still watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Do you have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Well, make the switch to Locked On Sports Today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So let's talk about practice on Wednesday because, well, the Islanders lineup was a little different. Two players specifically were changed in practice. And again, the reasons for them are perhaps a little bit different. Top line remained the same. Bo Horvat, Casey Cizikas, Matthew Barzal. Third line, J.G. Pajot, Anders Lee, Pierre Engvall. That remained the same. On the second line, it was Brock Nelson at center. You had Hudson Fasching replacing Simon Holmstrom on the left side, Kyle Palmieri on the right. And then on the fourth line, Kyle McLean, the center, Cal Clutterbuck, the right wing. But the left wing, one Ruslan Iskhakov. Matt Martin, missing practice, is listed as day-to-day with a maintenance day. Well, basically when asked after practice if Iskhakov could go, being a coach, you're going to be a little coy about it, but he said that's a possibility, of course, and we'll make a decision tomorrow night. So, look, Iskhakov basically has only played one game all season, and that was a kind of meaningless game. And, the season finale, now exciting that it was his NHL debut. And, basically, Patrick Waugh quoted as saying, Martin is day-to-day maintenance. So, if you change up, here's the risk and reward situation with putting in Ruslan Iskhakov and possibly benching Matt Martin. The drawback starts with this. Iskhakov is much smaller than Martin, not as physical as Martin, and not as defensively responsible as Matt Martin. So you may be losing some of the physicality on your fourth line. That is definitely part of the equation. And you will also lose a little bit of your defensive situation where, you want guys to back check and you want guys to be ready and what have you. And, you can't allow time and space, if you're the New York Islanders, to allow the Carolina Hurricanes to get into the zone with speed and create off the rush or off the dump in, and you just can't do that. And the Islanders did too much of it in the first two games, especially game two, but in the first two games of the series. So now the Islanders need to figure out whether or not that trade-off is a good one. Now, the positives of putting Ruslan Iskhakov into the game, obviously, he is a lot more dynamic offensively than Matt Martin. And the fact that this would be his second career NHL game that counts, and his first career NHL Stanley Cup playoff game, you're looking at a situation where, Iskhakov really could be, I would almost say, a guy who has nothing to lose and is just out there to give it his all and give you a little bit of energy, a little bit of juice, and obviously a little bit of speed. And Iskhakov telling the Hockey News after practice yesterday, that would be a pretty big step, but hey, I'm ready whenever. I'm not sure what the decision is going to be tomorrow, but I'm really just excited for the chance. And, obviously with Iskhakov, size is an issue. He's listed at 5'8", $165 or so. He's not a big guy. He may very well need to, he will need to be responsible defensively for the Islanders. But boy, this team needs more team speed. And especially, here's the other thing that may balance it out a little bit. If you substitute Hudson Fasching for Simon Holmstrom, Iskhakov will replace Holmstrom's speed, and Fasching could replace Matt Martin's physicality. So, yeah, on the surface of everything, it just sounds like, you're sacrificing physicality and defense for offense. But when you take into consideration both moves, you may very well have a more of a balanced situation than you thought. The other factor is obviously this. Would you put Iskhakov on the fourth line? Now, he and Kyle McLean obviously played together at Bridgeport. McLean called up, in the second half of the year to finally get his shot at the NHL, but they played 35, 40 games together at Bridgeport this year. I'm estimating off the top of my head, but it's probably somewhere in the 30s to low 40s. And they may know each other, but maybe it's better to put Fasching on that fourth line to keep that more of a physical line and have Iskhakov fill in on the second line where he can be maybe a little bit more offensive minded, and his lack of size may not be as problematic because you got Palmieri and Nelson who are a little bit bigger. I mean, they're not the most physical players, but they're not going to shy away from contact, and you may be able to compensate there. So again, game time decision is what they're saying. The defense pairings, by the way, in practice, Alexander Romanov and Noah Dobson, the top pair, Adam Pelech, Ryan Pollock, the second pair, and then Riley and Bortuzzo, the third pair. So it looks like Bortuzzo still in over Aho, and we'll see what the ultimate decision that the Islanders will make is going to be, because let's face it, it is going to be an important one. We have got more to get to on today's show. We'll talk about why the Islanders tend to struggle so badly against Carolina. We'll answer one of your email questions, and we'll have our Islanders birthday of the day. All that still to come on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Indeed. When you're drafting your fantasy team, do you ever wish you could handpick the best stars for your business team? Well, if you're building your talent roster, you need Indeed. Indeed is the hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. Don't spend hours on multiple job sites looking for candidates with the right skills when you can do it all with Indeed. Find top flight talent fast with Indeed's suite of powerful hiring tools like matching, assessments, and virtual interviews. Indeed knows that when you're growing your own business, you have to make every dollar count. That's why with Indeed, you only pay for quality applications that match your must-have job requirements. Visit Indeed.com/locked-on to start hiring now. Go to Indeed.com/locked-on, Indeed.com/locked-on. Terms and conditions apply. Cost per application pricing not available for everyone. Need to hire? You need Indeed. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. And now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. I know it's frustrating that this is now the third time in the last 5 or 6 years that the Islanders and Hurricanes have met in the playoffs, and the Islanders were swept the first time, lost in 6 games last time. They're down 2-0 this time. This is an Islander team that is just struggling against Rod Brind'Amour's Carolina Hurricanes in the playoffs. And if you think about why, and it is something we have discussed on the show leading up to the series and even in the series, there's a number of reasons for it. Obviously, we could start with team speed. The Islanders do not have it. The Hurricanes, without a doubt, faster top to bottom on their roster than the Islanders are. The other thing is that the Hurricanes pressure the puck carrier aggressively. And if you think about it, that's something the Islanders struggle with. We've seen it throughout the regular season and into the playoffs, where the Islanders can't clear their own zone. And if they're not going to be smart about it and get the puck out, whether it's through the middle or off the boards or with a pass or skating it, whatever it is, if they can't do that, then they're going to have trouble. Now, they have trouble. The Islanders have difficulty getting the puck out of their zone sometimes, even against a less aggressive on the puck kind of a team. So the whole goal for the Carolina Hurricanes is to forecheck you into making mistakes and then counterattacking off of those mistakes. And that creates all kinds of problems for the Islanders, who have difficulty getting the puck out of their own zone to begin with. So you talk about a team that is well coached, defensively responsible, has more speed than the Islanders, and is aggressive on the puck carrier on their forecheck, and you've got a recipe for struggles. So that an Islander team that doesn't have an easy time getting the puck out of their zone has to think fast and make precise passes or move the puck quickly in order to get the puck out of their zone. Now, we have an email from Mike from North Carolina. Mike asks, is it just me, or did 1 or 2 guys have the puck in the offensive zone several times with no help? Did the offense decide to take a vacation during the second half of this game? It's dreadful. I expected special teams to be their downfall, not an offense that went on sabbatical throughout the game. And I think, Mike, your question is related to what I've been saying already, and that's why I kind of mentioned it right now. When you got a team that puts that much pressure on you and you can't clear the puck out of the defensive zone, that creates all kinds of problems. You can't get set up in the offensive zone and really establish an attack that way because you're so worried about making a mistake and having the puck go back the other way. And maybe there's a point where you just have to say, to heck with it, we're going to do it. But, basically in game 2, Carolina had the puck in the Islander zone for more than 11 minutes. And that is a very, very high number when you consider, offensive zone, defensive zone, and neutral zone, that, having the puck in your defensive zone for 11 minutes, that not only wears down your goalie, it takes a toll on your defensemen, it takes a toll on your forwards. They're so busy trying to back check, they don't have the energy left to forecheck and to go and get aggressive offensively. And again, you're blocking a lot of shots if you're the Islanders, in part because you can't get the puck out of your zone. When the shot attempts are 110 to 28, you're not winning unless your goalie is perfect. So the Islanders, for sure, need to be better getting the puck out of their zone if they're going to have any hope of winning this game. And don't forget, again, Game 3 tonight, 7:30 Eastern Time, home game for the Islanders. You could hear every minute of this game on SiriusXM. Just go to the SXM app, do a search for Islanders. You'll hear the Islanders hometown radio broadcast. Got to win this game. Plenty of reasons why they've been struggling, but at the end of the day, if the Islanders don't win Game 3, they are going to have a heck of a time. Look, you win Game 3, you're back in the series. You lose Game 3, you're down 3-0. So Mike from North Carolina, thank you again for the email. Time now for our Islanders birthday of the day. And, well, we're a day late on this one. Wednesday was the 61st birthday of former Islanders winger David Mailey, the Beaver Dam, Wisconsin native, 6'2", $195, a second-round pick of the Canadiens back in 1982. Spent 4 seasons as a Wisconsin Badger before making his NHL debut late in the 85-86 season with the Canadiens. Later played for the New Jersey Devils, the Edmonton Oilers, the San Jose Sharks, and then finished his career, NHL career anyway, with 37 games with the New York Islanders in 93-94. He had 74 penalty minutes in those 37 games and 6 assists. Played 466 career NHL games, 43 goals, 124 points, 1,043 penalty minutes. He had 46 playoff games, 3 of those as an Islander, 5 goals, 10 points, 111 penalty minutes in the postseason. None of those goals or assists came with the Isles. One of his better games as an Islander, February 10th, 1994, at the Igloo in Pittsburgh. Islanders with Ron Hextall in goal. Tom Barrasso, the Hall of Fame goalie for the Pittsburgh Penguins. And in this game, with the Islanders trailing 1-0 early in the second period, David Mailey gets an assist on a goal by Steve Thomas, another assist to Benoit Hogue. That tied it at 1. Mailey then assisting on a goal by Tom Kerbers about a minute 16 seconds later. Mailey and Steve Thomas with the assists on that one. Islanders go on to win this game by a score of 5-3. David Mailey had 2 assists in this game, 7 penalty minutes, and 1 shot on goal. He was also a +2. Mailey going off for interference at one point in this game, and then also dropping the gloves with Marty McSorley. So early in the game, just 2 minutes and 9 seconds. So he had the assist, he had the fight, he did not have the goal, but this 2-assist performance, one of his better ones, and David Mailey, a checking forward who finished his NHL career as a New York Islander, he is our Islanders birthday of the day. Thanks again to everyone for making Locked On Islanders your first listen every day, everydayers. Tomorrow on the show, we will have our key takeaways from Game 3, plus we will set you up for Game 4, which could be a win or go home situation for the New York Islanders, or it could be a chance to even the series at 2 games apiece. That'll all depend on what will happen tonight. Until then, have a great day, everybody. Stay safe. And of course, let's go Islanders.